bastards are gonna pay for shooting up my ride.
Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and welcome to a little bit of Duke mod madness. A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one. This time around, we're taking a look at a mod by the name of Duke Forces, a mod that mushes together Duke Nukem 3D and Star Wars Dark Forces. Only now this is in version 2.0, so it has even more than it had before. It's now subtitled Darth Nukem, and as you can probably imagine, that means that a few extra bits and pieces in terms of abilities have been added into the mix, such as being able to force choke the crap out of your enemies, which is pretty goddamn neat. Something that won't have escaped your attention is the fact that this is not a purpose-built custom level for Duke Forces. This is, in fact, the first level of Duke 3D, and what Duke Forces does is it tweaks the textures as well as a whole host of other features in order to bring it a bit more in line to something that may plausibly fit within the Star Wars universe. In terms of more significant tweaks, however, you'll notice that the armory that you get to play around with here in Duke Forces is also very much Star Wars inflected, ranging from humble blasters at the bottom end to much more powerful death dealers such as the assault cannon and the mortar launcher, all of which you can get relatively early on as you defeat certain enemies and uncover certain secrets. Now that said, you really shouldn't lull yourself into a false sense of security, because although you may feel relatively OP, trust me, there are enemies here that will be able to kick your ass in very short order. Case in point, that enemy right there would have had me dead to rights in any other mod, but thankfully Duke Forces includes a saving throw ability of sorts, one that gives you a countdown timer when your health hits 0, and as long as you get a kill on an enemy before that happens, you'll be able to revive and fight on. You'll also have seen me take advantage of the Force Heal ability, which will allow you to recharge a little bit of extra health should you find yourself in a sticky situation after reviving. It's very undignified in practice, come to think of it. You've got to retreat to a relatively safe area, pop a squat in a corner somewhere, and hold down the use button so you can just will yourself back to health.
Now, this is a force to be reckoned with.
I mean, of course it's got a lightsaber. Why the heck wouldn't it? It's a Star Wars mod. I mean, there's a special place in hell, there has to be, for someone that makes a Star Wars themed mod for anything and doesn't have it include at least the ability to wield a lightsaber. This, however, gets extra points for having a few perks alongside the lightsaber, such as the ability to reflect laser blasts if you're standing idle with it, which is extra cool. Naturally, it cuts through enemies like a hot knife through butter, and if you use the alt fire, you can actually lunge in the direction of your enemies before, cutting them in half, which is pretty neat. Also, you get to battle Sith apprentices with it, which in this case shocked me so much that I immediately leapt to my own death. Funnily enough, leaping to your death could actually be considered a valid tactic for dealing with these fellas, because if you reload a save after a death where one of these was present, there's a chance that they may not actually pop up in the same point. They may actually pop up a little further on down the line, because the placement seems to be somewhat randomly designated. It leads to a nice sense of unpredictability and can genuinely keep you on edge in terms of where they may turn up next. But crucially, defeating these fellas will grant you access to perks. In this case, I've got a perk that will increase my shield by 40 points. You can get perks that'll increase your health, your force energy capacity. It'll even grant you access to certain bonus weapons, such as the classic Duke Nukem shotgun, which, rest assured, is still extremely effective here. It's a nice incentive, and it's one that ensures you don't feel the urge to just turn tail and run.
You will experience the full power of the dark side.
So the first time this happened, I had no idea what was going on. I thought it was in fact linked to the fact that I was about to enter the boss arena at the end of episode 1, but no, I was mistaken. It was in fact linked to my force abilities, because if you use them enough, the Emperor himself grants you the ability to shoot force lightning. In retrospect, I'm not entirely sure why this took me so completely by surprise. There's even a little icon that fills up as you use your force powers that leads to this, and then there's, the subtitle of this edition of Duke Forces itself. Darth Nukem? Should have been a clue. But in any case, this puts me in a good position to also talk about what Duke Forces changes with regards to the bosses that you'll face at the end of each episode here. In this case, the Battle Lord is replaced by a Dark Trooper. If you don't know what a Dark Trooper is, it is a hulking mass of metal, missiles, and death. And it'll probably kick your ass. But even then, I would still say that it's a better boss battle than the original Battle, which was just a whole pile of hit scan and bullshit. Instead of the Cycloid Emperor at the end of episode 3, Duke Forces instead has you fighting an elite Sith who has the magical ability to summon great big pendulous balls with which he whacks you repeatedly in the face. On top of that, he can also summon Sith apprentices to repeatedly kick your shit in with their own respective lightsabers. And yes, you also have the backup dance troupe around the back there repeatedly peppering you with their own blasters, which is just a whole barrel of fun. I've got to admit though, I really didn't do myself any favors by playing this on hard difficulty. Pro tip, hard mode is hard. Hard mode here is very hard. There is definitely a bit of a step change when you get to some of the bosses here in terms of just the sheer amount of just damage you have to deal to them in order to put them away. And with this fight in particular, I do feel like there's just a few too many things going on at the same time for it to feel fair. But wait, there's more. Once you've had your fill of the standard Duke 3D episodes here, you'll discover that there are in fact an additional 2 custom episodes for you to play through in Duke Forces. Titled Duke Forces and Darth Nukem respectively, they will give you a whole swathe of new levels to play through, some of which containing questionable design decisions, such as this stacked combination lock here, which is a poster boy for why you really shouldn't stack buttons on a button puzzle. It just makes things really awkward for everyone involved. Just put them side by side like normal people, damn it. But if you're itching for a good excuse to continue the wholesale slaughter of the entire Star Wars universe, then honestly, look no further. If you need more levels, Duke Forces has got you covered. I'd just say don't go into this expecting a lot of level-to-level coherency. Overall, this episode does feel very much like a grab-bag collection. A lot of things created for the theme, but not with any overarching continuity in mind. It does, however, feel that the Darth Nukem episode was built with a lot of the shortcomings of Duke Forces very much in mind. The levels here are much stronger on an immediate basis. There's more interesting stuff going on. The structure of the level layouts are more coherent. There's more interesting, gimmicky Star Wars stuff going on. And you'll get to some moments in these levels where you'll go, huh, that's pretty goddamn neat. And I'd certainly say that this opening level here very much falls into that category. Not only do you have a pretty neat Hoth-style level to explore, but once you reach the end of it, you also have the golden opportunity to kick the crap out of Boba Fett. Or is it Boba Fett? I'm always confused on the pronunciation. Bob. If you need any further proof as to why this episode is objectively better than the preceding one, I submit to you the following evidence. You can ride a goddamn land speeder. I repeat, you can ride a goddamn land speeder. You can also crash one, as I found out previous to the footage you're currently seeing now, but still, this is goddamn great. Now granted, it doesn't last very long, but in all honesty, it doesn't need to. It's what you'd call a set-piece moment. It caps off the end of one of the levels in Darth Nukem. Never really happens again, but boy oh boy, you can see the effort that went into making this just dripping off the screen. To be honest, if I wanted to go a little deeper into the intricacies of the levels across both Duke Forces and Darth Nukem here, I would need an entire other video, so I'll hope you'll forgive me for being a little brief when it comes to that subject. Maybe it's something I'll revisit further on down the line, most assuredly in the form of a live stream where I'll have ample time to bitch and moan about the things that cause me to die repeatedly across these many levels. Also, screw Tusken Raiders. Go back to Tatooine. You're not wanted here, you cover everything in nets and you suck. So, would I recommend Duke Forces subtitled Darth Nukem? Yes! I actually would. What I would not recommend, however, is playing it in a concentrated single sitting like I did, and my brain started to dribble out of my nose, which is why I just have to apologize again if I've missed anything. Also, fuck sentry bots. Fuck those things. You know them. By the noise that they make. They were shit in Duke 3D. They're shit here too. Granted, they don't kamikaze into your face, but still, fuck them all the same. Where was I? Ah yeah, I was saying how you should play this. You should play this, but you should be aware that some enemies are gonna really piss you off. Such as the sentry bots. Such as the Tusken Raiders, such as the Bounty Hunter 3i dudes that relentlessly spam goddamn thermal detonators, particularly in crowded places. That is how you lose all of the strippers in a strip joint. That is how you end up spawning additional enemies. Screw you in particular. While I'm at it, screw these balls. These balls suck. You know what they do? They replace the little alien facehugger things out of Duke 3D, but instead they now hover, and there's shitloads of them, and they hover in front of your face and kill you to death. So what am I really trying to say here? I think I'm trying to say that I like Duke Forces despite itself. That's what I'm trying to say here, because in the act of using all of this quite enjoyable weaponry, in the act of flinging around a lightsaber and force-choking my enemies to death, you will also have to put up with quite a high degree of bullshit. And for the most part, that bullshit takes the form of where enemies are placed, the enemy varieties that you have to deal with in one particular location. It just doesn't feel very curated, if that makes any sense. It feels like a handful of enemies was randomly picked out of a bag and chucked into a room in certain situations, and that just leads to heaps upon heaps of frustration. So yeah, I'd say its biggest problem right now is that combat balance, and in addition to the enemies, probably more support items would be a nice shout as well, especially health items. I know you got the ability to revive, you've got the ability to use force heal, but it ain't always gonna help you out. In any case, I hope some kind of coherent opinion has managed to coalesce out of the 12 minutes or so of runtime for this video. I think, for the most part, it boils down to, yes, you should play this. It's got a lot of neat features, a lot of neat little bits of gameplay, but you should also be prepared for tremendous amounts of bullshit at the same time. Yeah, that sounds like a good summary to me. It's the best I can do right now. My head's been a bit woolly this week, and I've been fighting to keep my brain from, as previously mentioned, dribbling out of my nose. Anyways, if you're still somehow watching this car crash of a video and you feel like giving Duke Forces a whirl for yourself, you'll find the link, as usual, in the description below. While I'm at it, I'd like to give a great big thank you to my wonderful patrons over on Patreon. Thank you so very much for supporting the channel and for helping to make content like this possible. If you're interested in lending a hand yourself, maybe you'd like to see your name in the credits, maybe you'd like to get early editions of my videos before anyone else, well, if that's the case, you'll find the link to my Patreon page also in the description below. Hopefully you've somehow managed to enjoy this video. Lord knows how you managed that, but if you did, feel free to let me know how in the comments below. While you're at it, feel free to suggest any mods that you'd like to see me cover in future editions of Doom. Not Doom Mod Madness, the other one. Mod Madness, that's the one. Anyway, I'm gonna go scoop my brain up off the floor now. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.